made in Japan, I mean, made in the USA, and it was upside down. I have a sign in the window that I got from, Rick at Troy, and it's about, we're not into that, I forget exactly what the words are, but it has to do with, Oriental study. Well, she's gonna ring the bell this time. Well, I gotta go see a doctor. I got up, before I went to bed, to the bathroom. 3 times during the night, I went to the bathroom. I got up this morning at 5:30, well, it was closing to 6. I had to go to the bathroom. I'm not drinking that much stuff, I don't know. Yeah. forget to put that book back where you got it.
Yes, in the right way. You didn't put it sharply, it's hard to see so far.
She don't ring the bell loud. Good.
He's still nervous.
Huh?
He's very nervous.
You're something, Joe, first. That's why I got it open.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Joe.
Wow, this is loud.
I know. Can I move
That's okay, it's fine. Yeah. I want my voice to be booming today. So welcome to our Sunday service here in Monterey. The weather certainly has changed in the last week or so. So we know it's fall, and it's a time for us to practice what we call the six paramitas of giving and sharing and discipline and wisdom, compassion. And so today we are being assisted in our service by Mariko Yamashita, who's our newest minister's assistant from Salinas. And so you'll see her periodically here in Monterey helping out. She's a great student, good student, and so I look forward to working with Mariko in the months and years to come. Today is October 30th, which is the day before Halloween, and so I was thinking I should be talking about masks that everybody's wearing. But I'll talk about that a little bit more later. To begin with, I'm going to ask Mariko to share with us an opening reading.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to start with the opening reading. This is a poem in an English translation of Hisako Nakamura's book, Kokoro no Teashi, which is Hands and Feet of the Heart. Please join me in Gassho. Late at night, tears wet my cheeks when I consider that my present suffering is solely due to my past evil. though without hand or feet, the life that is allowed to live, how precious. Because I am without hands and without feet, I am enveloped in the Buddha's compassionate sleeves. How peaceful I am, though unable to repress the wrath in my heart, the Buddha accepts me just as I am. Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida.
Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida. Namo Amida.
Okay, thank you very much, Mariko. And now I'd like to ask you to join me in the sutra chanting. We'll begin with the chant called the Sambujo. You'll find on page 23 of the large purple service book. And following the Sambujo, we will chant the Jusei on page 91. So we'll begin on page 23 and then to page 91. service book, page, sorry, thank you, 174.
When life is fair and sunlight gives the day, when fortune smiles and flowers are gone away, oft let us pause with grateful hearts to say, Namo Even though our way leads beneath the darkened sky, and to our love once pain and death draw nigh, our tears may flow, yet trustingly we cry,
Thank you. Please remain standing, and Mariko will lead us in the reading of the threefold refuge on page 10.
The threefold refuge. Difficult is it to receive a human form, now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the Dharma of the Buddha, now we hear it. If we do not cross over to the truth in the present life, in what life shall we cross over? Let us with sincerity and true reverence take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we, together with all sentient beings, awaken to the great way of enlightenment and to the unsurpassed intent of Amida Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we, together with all sentient beings, enter the storehouse of the Dharma, becoming like the wisdom ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we, together with all sentient beings, become units in true accord, in harmony with all things. The peerless, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rare to encounter, even in many hundreds and thousands of kalpas. Now we are privileged to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teaching. And now we're going to read the Sankyemon, the three treasures in Japanese, on page 6. Ninjin ukekatashi imasude ni ikuku. Buppo kikikatashi imasude ni kiku. Konomi konjo ni mukatte dosesunba, sarani izure no shou ni mukatte ka konomi o dosen. Daishu morotomo ni shishin ni sanbo ni kieshi tatematsuru deshi. Mizukara butsu ni kieshi tatematsuru, masani negawaku ga shujo to tomo ni 大道を体現して無常起こさん。自ら法に帰依し立てまつる。まさに願わくば主情とともに、深く共造に入りて知恵海のごとくならん。自らそうに帰依し立てまつる。まさに願わくば主情とともに、大衆を通りして一切脱げならん。無常人人微妙の王は百千万語にもあよことかたし、我今検問し従事することを得たり、願わくば如来の真実義を下し立てまつらん。南無阿弥陀仏。
南無阿弥陀仏。
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 Please be seated. Thank you very much. Once again, good morning, everyone. It's nice to see all of you here on this warm, not warm, cold Sunday. Yeah. Some of you know, and some of you may not know, that about 2.5 years ago, we started preparations to celebrate our 75th anniversary here in Monterey. And part of that preparation was the restoration of some of the items up here that you see on the altar. The front main table and the hanging lanterns, the 2 scrolls on either side, and the little tables in front of those scrolls were all packed up by some company from Japan, and they packed it all up and shipped it all back to Japan in the hopes that they would get restored and then be back here within 8 months or so, ready for our celebration. Well, then COVID hit. And all of those items sat in Kyoto, Japan for about 2 years. And finally, in September, they were able to travel and come back to America with our table and scrolls and everything. So if you look at them, they are really beautiful. The gold on the table is really shiny and new. The scrolls are new, the tables, everything. So it's really beautiful. And it was just in time for our celebration, which was on October 9th, or 8th. Yeah. Anyway, so we're really happy with that. We also have a new table here in the front for our large incense burner. The one we had previously was much too small for the burner, so we bought a new incense burner table here. So very nice. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I want to share with you a passage. Let's see. First of all, I'm going to talk about a sutra that we call the Amida-kyo. And Amida-kyo is chanted when we have a memorial service, and it's a pretty long chant. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on who's chanting. If you chant it really slow, it'll probably take you 20 to 30 minutes. But I learned to chant it by heart when I was going to school in Japan, and I can chant it in about 12 to 13 minutes, really fast. And it's just a rambling chanting. But the Amida-kyo is a teaching of oneness of all of our lives, and we're bound together by what we call infinite light and life. And this is what this sutra is called, the Sutra of Infinite Light. It explains that life is temporary, that life is constantly changing and moving. Nothing ever stays the same. That we suffer because our thoughts are based on the darkness of our ignorance and illusion. That is, we're not seeing the world as it truly is. And that at that point, though, we become aware of Amida Buddha, this light of compassion and wisdom, and accept its unconditional saving power or salvation. So our minds become illuminated at that point. And it's through this hearing of the Amida-kyo, chanting of the Amida-kyo, even though most people don't understand what it means, I want to explain a little bit about it today. Now, our journey in this world is through two passages. We're born into this world, our birth, and then we exit this world at our death. At either end, we're not really aware of this coming and going, but instead, our thinking and feeling develop and function between these two passages. Therefore, during the journey, we should take a moment like this today, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, to listen to the teachings of the Buddha, to listen earnestly. Because, as we all know, life is so fragile, life is so fleeting. So I want to draw your attention to your large purple service books on page 110. Okay, if you look at that page. Now I'm going to read a translation from that page. It starts towards the bottom of 110. That's a little different from what you're seeing in your translation. This translation was done by Reverend Secretary of New York many years ago. It says, Shariputra, in that land, there are always all kinds of rare birds of various colors. The swan, the peacock, the parrot, the sharika, the kalabinka, and the jibanjika. All of these, 6 times every day and night, emit harmonious, elegant tones. These tones proclaim the 5 spiritual bases, the 5 spiritual powers, the 7 aspects of an awakened mind, and the 8 stages of the holy path and other truths like these. When the beings of that land hear those sounds, all think on the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. So in this country called the Pure Land of the Buddha, there are many different beautiful birds singing. But what these birds are singing is the truth of the infinite teaching. And when they hear the singing of the birds, the people of that land naturally think about the Buddha, they think about the Dharma, they think about the Sangha and the teachers. So in this world, we seek, I would call them treasures, or maybe we accumulate things in this life. And we work and we strive to obtain these things. Our money, our houses, our land, our clothes, our jewels, and so forth. But without these treasures, we may not be able to live. But unfortunately, our bodies and our treasures are constantly changing and will disappear. So the Buddha tells us that the real treasures are what he calls the 3 invisible truths. First is awakening or enlightenment. Second is the doctrine or his teachings. And the third is the successors or the teachers of the Dharma, the monks, the Shinran, all the great masters of Shinshi. So the birds of the Pure Land sing about these 3 treasures. So if our mind is awakened, we can hear the singing of the birds as a song of the 3 treasures. Then we come into oneness with them. Then we realize that we are already within and embraced in these 3 treasures. But we are so sometimes, we're distracted or we're not paying attention. And so we cannot comprehend the singing of the 3 treasures. Not only the birds, but all the sounds around us. For we're really singing the same song. So when we're chanting, we're singing the same song. We're singing the praises of the Buddha. And when we're hearing the praises of the Buddha. This is the any sutra, like this, the Samudra that we chanted today. But I wanted to point something out too, that the reading of that in that page 110 lists these birds, right? So if you look at the front table here, from right to left, on this table are those birds listed. So this table depicts those birds in the Pure Land singing. Right? So on the other side also you see dragons. And dragons are also on the incense burner. And just like the incense burner, the dragon is there. One has his mouth open, one has his mouth closed. So the passages of birth and death and the world in between is this singing of the praises of the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. Okay. So as our Naijin traveled across the ocean and came back to us these items, you'll see depicted here the Buddha's Pure Land in the tables, in the panels on either side, up on top as well. Just real quickly, I want to point something out. These birds on the panels on either side are peacocks. And peacocks are one of the birds described in the Pure Land. And there's also peonies. The peony flower is called the protector of the king. And it was the peony that had this element in it that kept bugs away. And so the birds and the lions in this Pure Land, they sleep under the peony tree or a peony plant to keep the bugs, they kept the bugs away. And then over here on top, I thought these were peacocks, but they're called Dan in Japanese or Chinese, Dan, R-A-N. And these are mythical birds that are birds of enlightenment. So they're different. You can see the tails are different, the looks are different. So they are a magnificent bird. They're shining, they're emitting rays of color from their body, and they're singing too. This is said to be beautiful. Now there's a story that goes along with this Dan about a mother bird, Dan, hatched a bunch of baby birds. And a baby bird, in nature, when it's born, it doesn't have the same color as the parent. It is maybe a simple brown color, like young peacocks or the young Dan. And so the story is that these young little birds were afraid of the mother because the mother had these brilliant, beautiful colors. And they wouldn't eat because they were afraid of the mother. So the mother then goes into the pond, rolls around in the mud, turns herself all brown, and then goes back. And all the little birds were so happy that their mother was the same as them. Okay. Now the story is about a mother's compassion to sacrifice oneself for her children. And the story is about the Buddha who sacrifices himself or herself for you and I, so that we can hear this teachings of the Dharma by maybe even disguising himself or herself as what we call bodhisattva, teaching us through friends and through family and through parents, children, who are teaching us about life. That's the Buddha moving towards us, disguised in many different forms. So that's the essence of that story of the Dharma. So thank you very much today for attending, and I want to say that we're so fortunate, and we should feel fortunate that we're able to have this beautiful altar here that represents the Pure Land of the Buddha. And I'm so happy that it turned out so well. And so thank you to Japan and the Wakamashi Company and all of you for supporting the restoration of the altar. Thank you very much. So will you please join me in Dasho? Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Okay, now before we close, I just want to take a minute, and this is something that we used to do here before COVID, where after my talk, I would just see if you have any questions about anything, about the service, about anything. Ruby.
Yes, since the temple has opened up again, is there anything that any of the groups or people are doing to try to get our membership increased?
Sorry, I'll get my mask. So the question is, since we're back open, what are we doing to increase membership? Well, this little camera here is one way. We're Zooming, or we're live streaming all of our services onto the Monterey YouTube site in the hopes that people will view it, people may be interested.
It's hard to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So we are live streaming the services on the Monterey Temple YouTube site in the hopes that people will watch it, maybe not live, but they may watch it later, become interested, and attend. Now we also, through our newsletter, through our website, but you know, it takes more than that, right? It takes all of you to contact people and say, hey, you should come check it out. You know, there's something for everybody. You know, I'm starting to write an article on why bring your kids to the temple. You know, but it's not just kids; it's adults too. You know, why we should encourage our friends to come to the temple. And part of the reason I believe is because, you know, there's some things we can really rely on in life. You know, we can rely on our spouses, our friends, our family. But those things that we rely on, those too are temporal, right? They don't last forever. The one thing that we can truly rely on is the truth that the Buddha taught. That's always going to be there. No matter what happens to us in our life, no matter what changes we experience, the truth of the Dharma, of the Buddha's words, are always going to be there. That's constant. That's the one thing that we can truly rely on. So I think we as members and supporters and friends of the temple, we need to encourage others to come. And I can do as much as I can through writing and talking and visiting, but we all need to do our part. Okay? Yeah.
Are we planning to have the Oban Festival next
Uh,
year?
So, do you guys know what Oban is? It's a festival in the summer. It's like the Day of the Dead kind of festival, where we honor our ancestors in July. And there's a story behind it, but the idea is that we celebrate life. We celebrate the life that we've been given. In also celebrating that life, we're also thanking our parents, our ancestors who've given us this life. And so the celebration is a service. We dance, we eat, we drink, what? Oh. I have to be on camera, I guess. My director is telling me. So it's a celebration of life, and it culminates with a festival out here, and food and drink and dance and everything. It's a lot of fun. But whether we're going to have one this year is not my decision. It's a kind of a temple board of directors decision. But I'm hoping we will. And my hope is that we'll go back to at least some form of what we did before. Yeah. Because that is one way in which people know about this temple. That we've been able to reach out. That as people come to the festival, but I'll do like an introduction of Buddhism lecture in here. We'll have a service, and so a lot of times that's how people are introduced to the temple. Yeah. So I'll keep my fingers crossed. Okay. Any other questions or thoughts about? Yeah.
In Mexico, today's the Day of the Dead.
What's that?
Today in Mexico, today's the Day of the Dead.
Today's the Day of the Dead. Okay. Great. Yeah, we should actually try to celebrate with them, huh? In some way. Or they can celebrate with us too in the summer. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. There was something else I wanted to mention about the altar. Oh, I know what I wanted to mention. As I enjoy hearing the singing and the chanting together because it really is so much better than just sitting at home by myself and chanting. You know, to be chanting with people, it's very uplifting. And how many of you ever tried meditation? sitting meditation or anything like that. It's not easy, huh? It's difficult.
No.
And the most difficult part of meditation, sitting meditation, is the distractions. You know, we sit and when I was practicing, it was just breathing, right? That's the first thing you learn, is how to breathe. But as you're doing that, you know, your mind starts to wander, noises distract you, something else distracts you. It's really hard to stay focused when you're meditating. It takes years and years of practice, actually, to become proficient at just sitting and just breathing without all this other stuff going on. So when we're chanting, I know many people ask me, how come we're chanting in this, what they think is Japanese, which is actually the Japanese pronunciation of the classical Chinese, which is partially Sanskrit. so I would bet a year's salary that nobody here knows exactly what we're chanting. We're just chanting. Right? So the idea behind that is why we're chanting in a language that we don't understand is so that it's like meditation. It's like just chant and just bring out each word, each syllable, and not think about anything else. Because if we were chanting in a language that's familiar to us, we'd be distracted by the imagery that it creates in our mind. But the idea behind chanting on a Sunday morning here is to just chant and not have to think about anything else. Not have to think about what's for lunch, what's going to happen on Monday, what you did yesterday, but just be present in that moment as you're chanting. And that's a deep form of meditation and losing oneself in a way, you know, through this process of chanting. Okay? So I wanted to mention that to you because many times we wonder, why are we chanting in this language? So, okay. Any other thoughts or comments, anybody? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and close. Anybody want to come back up? So we do have services every Sunday here. As you know, taking care of 3 temples, I'm not here every Sunday. But next week we'll have Sunday service with minister's assistants conducting the service. And in 2 weeks I'll be here for our monthly memorial service for the month of November. Okay. And so now I'd like to ask you all to please rise and join me in the Gatha Ondo San 2 on page 218.
220.
This is a translation of the Amida-kyo section on it. The Buddha says, moreover, Shariputra, in the land of utmost happiness, There are very many pools of gems brimming with the water of 8 virtues. The bottoms of the pools are pure, covered with sand of gold. On the 4 sides there are stairways of gold, silver, lapis lazuli, and crystal. Above there are storied pavilions, also majestically adorned with gold, silver, lapis lazuli, crystal, mother of pearl, and red pearl, and carnelian. The lotus flowers are as large as cartwheels. Those of green color give off green light. Those of yellow color, yellow light. Those of red color, red light. Those of white color, white light. They are subtly, wonderfully fragrant and pure. Shariputra, the land of utmost happiness, is perfected thus, and splendidly adorned with such excellences. Namo Amitabha.
Namo Amitabha.
Amitabha.
Namo
Namo
Amitabha.
Amitabha.
Namo Amitabha.
Thank you. Please be seated. This will conclude our services today here in Monterey. I want to thank you all for your attendance today and kind attention, and I hope to see you in a couple of weeks here at Monterey. And I will invite you all to come up and burn incense.